Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Tesla stock today is down about 2%. Now, the broader markets are down as well. S&P's down a third of 1%. NASDAQ down about a third of 1%. Russell down over half of 1%. So it is a little bit of a risk-off day today. There are some winning areas in the trading community. We are still doing quite well, even in the past couple of days, where some areas have taken a little bit of a breather, including the broader markets, including Tesla stock. But we'll talk about that in just a moment. In this video, we need to get into your Tesla stock breaking news. There's actually quite a bit of really good news today. So this is not like a Tesla, bad news driven sell-off. It's a broader market, kind of guilty by association kind of sell-off. So important to highlight there. Ladies and gentlemen, hit that like button as well as subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. And if you want to come trade with us, check that link out down below in the description of today's episode. In the trading community year to date, we are currently up about 212%. What we do is we go out and find small cap AI companies, energy companies, quantum companies, okay, gene editing, biopharma, like all of the main, industries for the next 10 years that you almost have to be invested in. We're going out and finding the quality companies that Wall Street is really not paying attention to or overlooking for one reason or another, and taking decisive investments in those companies. And, well, if you invest in high quality companies that Wall Street is not really paying attention to, inevitably they come around to do quite well. Now, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a financial planner. That is not a guarantee. You could lose money. Obviously, don't be a jackass. But the strategy has worked personally for me for a very long time. Long before AI was popular, I was doing this. Well, now, in this market, it works even better. So if you guys want to come join, that link is down below in the description of today's episode. But let's get into your Tesla stock breaking news. Okay, so first and foremost, today we have had a lot of price target increases recently for Tesla. Today is no different. Today you have TD Cowen that is raising their Tesla price target to $509 per share from $374 per share. So the price target increases are continuing. Also being reported that FSD V14 could be coming to the Cybertruck by the end of this month. Sawyer Merritt says that FSD V14.1 being able to start driving directly from a parking spot and automatically find and park in a spot at your destination really is a game changer for fully point-to-point travel. Also, it handled all three roundabouts below really well. He also says that FSD V14.1 just drove him through a McDonald's drive-thru by itself. It pulled up, stopped at the ordering station, then continued and stopped at the pay and pickup window. The video cut off near the end because his iPhone storage filled up. But you get the idea. The software is getting closer and closer to unsupervised FSD. Boston Dynamics today has released a new video of their humanoid robot hands. They say that grippers are one of the most intricate parts of a humanoid robot, packed with actuation and sensing. They need to be durable enough to handle tough jobs, but precise enough to handle fragile items. Our engineers share how the Atlas gripper has evolved as our manipulation capabilities expand and the principles that will guide future iterations. Again, it's cool what they're doing. It's cool what other robot startups are doing. But again, the fact of the matter is, the company that will be successful in humanoids, like longer term, it's not the company, unfortunately, that can build the best robot. I'm not saying Boston Dynamics is the best robot, but they're definitely, a competitor. It is the company that can actually scale to sell it mass market and do it profitably. And Tesla at this point is the only viable option for that. They're the only one that has manufacturing down. Remember, especially when it comes to this, I mean, you can't just go out and buy like these parts for robots, right? Companies don't make them. So you have to make the parts. You have to set it up. So you're literally making all of the parts. You're making the robot. You're doing it profitably. It's very difficult to do that. You have to basically create your own supply chains. General Motors has officially unveiled the second generation Chevy Bolt EV with a starting price of $28,990, including a destination fee, 65 kilowatt hour LFP battery, and 255 miles of range. I mean, those specs are nice, but why do they have to look so bad? I mean, what? Like, I don't know. I mean, besides the black rims, there's nothing I personally like about these vehicles. Also, in a new Tesla update, you can now see buildings and cityscapes in more detail with 3D views in Tesla's software update 2025.38. The new Tesla Model Y Standard is starting to pop up in Tesla showrooms in the US, and the Model 3 Standard will also be making its way to showrooms in the coming days. Mike PC here on X says, "Today I got to check out the new Tesla Model Y Standard in person. While I've seen some mixed takes online, here's my perspective as a professional driver and trained technician. First off, it's clear this variant is engineered for easier and cheaper servicing with optimizations like better water routing under the hood to minimize maintenance needs overall. That alone could save fleets big time. Key differences from the premium long-range models: no ambient light bars, screen seat adjustments, no power buttons. He says he actually likes the simplicity. No autopilot included, which surprised him. Smaller frunk. No rear passenger screen, fewer physical buttons throughout, streamlined dash, cloth seats, no heated rear seats, reduced speakers, no AM, FM radio. You get the idea. He says overall this doesn't feel like a car aimed at everyday consumers. It's more for rental fleets, robotaxi operators, or budget consensus buyers who prioritize efficiency over bells and whistles. Though some individuals will snap them up at the $39,990 starting price, as a professional driver and technician, I prefer this stripped down vibe. Less to break, more focus on the road. As a Tesla employee, I dread all the exploitation I will have to give to customers. That said, I expect it to boost sales, especially to commercial fleets and in markets like Europe where affordability rules. Which I think is a very, fair take. Now, the NHTSA says that it is opening an investigation into 2.88 million Tesla vehicles equipped with its FSD system over more than 50 reports of traffic safety violations and a series of crashes. This is not new. These investigations have been going on for as long as FSD has been around, and it's really not something that moves Tesla stock at this point. But this is big news today. Tesla has reportedly received regulatory approval to test FSD on all state highways and expressways in Sweden. That's good. It says the approval is valid for 3 cars owned by Tesla. Tesla has filed for a new variant of the Model Y in China called the Model Y Plus, which is expected to offer longer range similar to the new Model 3 Plus variant introduced 2 months ago, which was at about 308 miles of range. Tesla has officially rolled out Grok to Canadian owners with software update 2025.38. Now, Figure today has also unveiled their 3rd generation humanoid robot. Again, are these things capable? Yes. Are they cool? Yes. In theory, could they compete with Tesla from a, capability perspective? Most likely, yeah. I mean, it's literally cleaning the house right now. These things are, pretty well off and pretty well on their way. That's not the problem. The problem with humanoid robots is going to be like the car market. And why do so many car companies fail? It's because, well, for one, most cars need their own unique parts, and you basically have to build all of that in-house. Same is true for robots. There's not a big robot manufacturing company like TSMC, right? There's no TSMC of the robot market. And if you don't know what I mean by that, TSMC is the one that builds the chips that NVIDIA or AMD or Intel design, right? They're actually building the chips. NVIDIA doesn't build their own chips. They design their chips and TSMC builds them, okay? There is no company for robots like TSMC that you can send a design for a robot over and TSMC will build it, right? It's not how it works. That's why a lot of car companies go bankrupt. It's not because they didn't have a good product. It's because they never could figure out manufacturing. And that's going to be the reason why Tesla dominates in this field of humanoid robotics. Tesla is just a master manufacturer in everything they do. Now, options have begun trading on Azoria Tesla Convexity leveraged ETF, which now holds a record 304% notional exposure to Tesla stock. So it's like a 3 times leveraged Tesla stock essentially with options, which is, I mean, crazy. Option activity today for Tesla stock. Look at this. You have 86 different trades totaling $222 million in Tesla with a positive order value of 94%. 94%. Yeah, that's incredible. Yesterday, the positive order value was only 48%. So this is a big improvement from yesterday. Now, the dollar amount is a little bit on the low side, but we'll take what we can get. Now, short interest of free float sitting at 3.05%, 85.57 million shares currently sold short in Tesla, which is quite a bit. Okay, that's quite a bit. And here on the day today, you have about 5,500 shares that are being covered on. Now, again, at the time of recording this video, Tesla is down 2.15%. A lot of stocks are red today. It's generally not a good day today if I were to categorize it. Okay. Russell's down 0.5%, NASDAQ down almost 0.5%, S&P is down 0.38%. Although you hit a new all-time high in the beginning of the trading day today on the S&P, you did get this reversal. And Tesla, it's just feeling that reversal, right? There was no news that is causing Tesla to fall. If anything, there was a lot of good news today and a lack of bad news. Now, some people are going to say, what about the TSLA investigation? There's like 50 of those going on right now. It doesn't matter. It literally is a non-event. Tesla stock is falling today because the broader markets are falling, because people are a little uneasy about maybe the government shutdown at this stage. It doesn't look like it's ending anytime soon. We don't know how the economy's doing. We were supposed to get a speech from Powell, and we did, but we did not get any headlines out of it. There was no change. There was no confirmation of this or that. It was basically a non-event. So, yeah, that's what is affecting Tesla today. I don't think it's something that's going to last. I do think October, November, December, from a seasonal perspective, we're still well on our way to having a strong 3-month move for Tesla and markets. Like, that has not changed at all. In fact, in broader market news today, Bank of America says there's no penalty for buying the S&P 500 at record highs. Bank of America says history shows investors aren't penalized for buying stocks at all-time highs. 5 years later, returns have often been larger or stronger. The bank notes that despite weak sentiment data, hard economic data remains solid. It expects this gap between perception and reality to support equities into year-end. Bank of America also highlights record household cash levels and weak home sales, echoing the 1980s when lower rates boosted housing and stocks. Its Q4 bull case, a 4% 10-year Treasury yield, and a 3.9% federal funds rate. They did say today that they are expecting the Fed to cut rates in October as well as December, which is the wide consensus at this point. Deutsche Bank today says that they expect the Fed to cut interest rates by 25 basis points each in the remaining 2 meetings this year. Donald Trump also has set a cabinet meeting for 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time today, and we'll see if any headlines come out of that. Also in the news today, Google says that hackers who targeted Oracle's tech stole mass amounts of customer data. U.S. House Speaker Johnson says we want the government to open so we can get to healthcare. The CNN Fear and Greed Index today coming in at 50. Yesterday it was at 53, so you're sitting right on neutral. Even though stocks have done well, there's a lot of chaos under the surface. Some areas have done really well, some areas have done really bad. There's just a lot of chaos under the surface, and you can see you're neutral. That's it. So there's potentially a long way to go from a sentiment perspective before this market is at risk of largely topping out. That's my view. I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not a financial planner, but that is what this would suggest. Normally stocks don't like cool off, quote unquote, until you're in extreme greed territory. Citibank says today that they expect cooler September core inflation. Citi economists expect September core CPI to rise 0.28%, down from 0.35% in August. While tariffs may keep goods prices firm, slower shelter inflation could ease overall services inflation. A government shutdown could delay the data release, but Citi says a softer labor market and cooling home prices reduce the risk of persistent inflation. Federal Reserve Bank of New York's John Williams signals more rate cuts. New York Fed President John Williams said concerns about a slowing labor market could lead him to support more rate cuts this year, a close ally of Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Williams' comments suggest the Fed will seriously consider cuts at its remaining 2 meetings in 2025, which, again, the markets are pricing in like a 98% chance of a cut in October and like a 90% chance of a cut in December. If we don't get economic data, those odds are going to stay roughly where they are. Now, if we get economic data and it looks really bad, then you might open the door for a 50 basis point cut and then maybe a 25 basis point cut at the next 2 meetings. If the data were to come in good, then maybe it would drop the odds of rate cuts, but most likely at this point, we're just not going to get the economic data we need before at least October. And then or the October, Fed meeting. And then maybe if the government opens at some point in November, then that could change things for a cut in December. But at this point, it's pretty well known by the markets we're going to get a cut in October and December. Israel's Netanyahu says that Trump should get a Nobel Peace Prize. U.S. August wholesale inventories are due at 10 a.m., but it was delayed due to the government shutdown, which is basically all of the data for almost 2 weeks now has been delayed. Like some of your biggest data sets, the jobs report, unemployment rate, critical data has not come out. Bessent says that he will release the Treasury budget statement after the shutdown ends. And Bessent is touting a drop in the U.S. deficit to GDP ratio for full year 2025. Here, Fed Powell does not comment on monetary policy or economic outlook in welcoming remarks at Community Bank Conference. And House Minority Leader Jeffries says there has been no recent talks between the House GOP and Democrats. Jamie Dimon warns of a 30% chance of a market correction. Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, says he's far more worried than others about a U.S. stock market correction, estimating the risk at 30% versus the market's 10%. He warned the downturn could happen within 6 to 24 months. Dimon cited rising geopolitical tensions, fiscal spending, politics, and global remilitarization as major risks. He also noted that while AI will ultimately pay off, much of today's investment may be wasted, similar to the dot-com era. He pushed back on claims of declining confidence in the U.S. dollar, calling it, quote, still the best currency, but suggest investors might consider diversifying. Dimon said unexpected shocks like rising bond yields leading to stagflation and recession are what worry him most. You can agree to some of this stuff. Jamie Dimon's always been a bearer of bad news, if you will. He runs the largest bank in the world. He has to be a little nervous by nature. But here's the deal. Okay? We are in an AI arms race / Cold War with China. There is no slowing down of AI. And I understand from a logical perspective why some people would say, like, look, there's going to be $800 billion of AI capex this year coming from, just a handful of companies alone, right? Over a trillion. It's like 1.2 trillion in total. Okay, great. OpenAI is going to generate, like 12 billion in revenue this year. And they're, a multi-hundred billion dollar company. Like, I get it, right? 20 billion in AI revenue, spending 1.2 trillion dollars, although the numbers are really hard to definitively calculate. Like, you're burning money at that point. My argument is there is no other option. Google is in an existential crisis. Other companies, they want to be winners in AI because the opportunity is so large. And then that's more of a micro approach to AI. That's more of like a company to company competition, if you will, in the US. But it's bigger than that. On a macro scale, we are competing with China to keep the #1 position as the world's most powerful country. If China wins in AI, they basically win everything. They would be the top country in the world. America's not going to let that happen. Okay? Or not without a fight. The government will be giving away hundreds of billions of dollars in basically grants and free money before they let America lose in AI. Jensen Huang says that, America's still in the lead, but not by much. Once you start to hear that change, yeah, that's when maybe you need to worry about a little bit of a correction. Or maybe there's a higher chance, some kind of correction at that point. Because if we lose AI, you're going to lose the reserve currency. You're going to lose everything longer term, right? But I think the government would literally subsidize the private sector and AI before that happened. And we're not even close to the government giving away hundreds of billions of dollars. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me know your thoughts on this down below in the comment section. Hit the like button as well as subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.